Have you ever heard about someone who died and came back?
Not just a fleeting dream, but a genuine experience where the boundary between life and death becomes blurred. I often ask myself this question when I look back on the day I truly believed I crossed that boundary. It wasn't a mere brush with danger or a momentary haze. It was a journey to a place where time and space lost their meaning, where I existed without truly existing, and then, somehow, found my way back. I grew up in Michigan, in a small town where faith ran deep. My family was devoutly Catholic, and while that gave me a sense of belonging, Christmas masses, Easter vigils, and the rhythm of church bells on Sunday mornings, it also planted in me an overwhelming fear. I believed wholeheartedly in God in heaven, but I also believed God was a stern judge, ready to note every misstep. As a child, I remember lying awake at night, scared that if I died before I could confess my sins, I would be doomed for all eternity. That fear was like a permanent shadow, following me even when the sun shone the brightest. Over time, I learned more about theology and realized God was not as harsh as I had once imagined. Yet, the vestiges of that terror remained. I'd have nightmares about not getting a chance to ask forgiveness. I'd wake up in a sweat, heart pounding, convinced I needed to set things right immediately or risk eternal punishment. Even at family gatherings, baptisms, confirmations, weddings, when everyone else seemed joyful and at peace, I felt a strange undercurrent of dread. No one talked openly about the fear of dying, but it was there, beneath the surface. For me, it was magnified. After I turned 20, my life began to shift in ways I never anticipated. I got married young, thinking I had found the stability I so craved. But years later, we divorced. It was a painful, tumultuous time. Suddenly, I was on my own, raising 3 kids. My heart was filled with questions. How would I provide for them? Could I ever give them a stable home life? Would the church support a divorced mother of 3? But I also found a fierce sense of determination awakening within me. I couldn't stand still. I moved to Kentucky to be closer to a small group of relatives and friends who offered me support. There, I juggled a full-time job while enrolling in a nursing program. It was grueling, long hours at work, followed by late-night study sessions after putting the kids to bed. Still, I managed to graduate in 2002, a moment that felt like I'd conquered a giant mountain. Armed with my nursing degree, I found work in the intensive care unit, ICU, of a local hospital. Ironically, this brought me face to face with death almost daily. Patients teetering on the brink, families praying in the waiting room, monitors beeping ominously in the background. Through these experiences, I thought I understood mortality. I believed I knew how precarious life could be, how quickly a heartbeat could falter. I witnessed the fragility of the human body and the resilience of the human spirit. People clung to hope, and sometimes, against all odds, they survived. Other times, they did not. I believed I had a professional and spiritual grasp on death, until the day I truly faced my own. It was a seemingly ordinary afternoon. The sun shone through the windows, and I was in the kitchen with my daughter, blending a strawberry smoothie. She was telling me about her school day, excited about a project involving nature and wildlife. I remember smiling at her enthusiasm, one of those small, precious moments parents treasure without even realizing it. Then I took a sip, just one sip, and my body betrayed me. My throat tightened. I could feel a burning sensation around my lips. My mouth began to itch and tingle, and saliva flooded it. Suddenly, I was gasping for air, trying to swallow but failing. A stark, visceral terror gripped me. I recognized it as a severe anaphylactic reaction. Since childhood, I'd had a known seafood allergy, but it had never been so extreme that I needed my EpiPen. Still, I always carried it, as any nurse with allergies would. This time, there was no room for hesitation. I grabbed my EpiPen, injected myself, and prayed it would stabilize me. But the reaction did not stop. My daughter looked terrified, her eyes widening as she watched me struggle for breath. My son rushed to help, quickly guiding me to the car. The drive to the hospital felt eternal, though it was only a few minutes away. Each second stretched, my lungs protesting every attempt to pull in air. By the time we arrived, I was on the verge of losing consciousness, my vision blurring. I managed to see a nurse I recognized from previous shifts at the ER. Desperately, I forced out the words, "I'm having anaphylactic shock." Her reaction was a puzzled frown. "You already used the EpiPen. Why come here?" In my hazy state, I felt disbelief. As a nurse, I knew EpiPen was just a stopgap. It buys critical time, but does not replace ongoing treatment. If not followed up by IV medications, oxygen, and thorough monitoring, things could go downhill fast. Yet here I was, faced with someone who seemed unaware of that basic protocol. I was wheeled into a dimly lit side room, left on a wheelchair because no bed was immediately free. My throat continued to close, a feeling like hands tightening around my neck. The itching in my mouth returned, more intense. My breathing turned to a harsh wheeze. I knew I couldn't wait for them to sort out logistics. I pulled out my second EpiPen and injected myself once more. For a brief moment, I felt a slight relief, just enough to remain conscious. But within minutes, the reaction roared back, fiercer than before. Vaguely, I heard someone shout. I saw a blur of movement as another nurse ran toward me and pushed me into a proper room. Someone called a code. Alarms blared in the background. Panic was everywhere, though it felt oddly distant to me. My vision tunneled, and I sank into what I can only describe as utter darkness. When I opened my eyes again, if you can call it that, I was not in my body. I was above it, looking down. I witnessed the commotion, medical staff rushing in, machines being prepared. I heard an announcement of a code echo along the corridors. People sprinted to save a life, but strangely, I didn't realize that life was mine. In that moment, it felt like I was watching a stranger. My only thought was, that poor girl looks terrible. I hope she pulls through. It was a sense of detachment unlike anything I had known. Then, quite abruptly, darkness consumed my awareness. In that next phase, there was no hospital, no noise, just a void of complete and profound blackness. I was in a space without dimensions. There was no sense of time. It could have been seconds or centuries. There was no up or down, no sound or smell. More disconcerting was the absence of any physical sensation. No weight, no pressure, nothing to tell me I was real. That emptiness was terrifying. I started to panic, questioning my entire existence. Did I really live? Was my entire life just an illusion? I thought about my children. Did they exist? Did my memories of them exist? It felt as though all ties to the physical world were dissolving. The idea of being stuck forever in this limbo became overwhelming. I felt an acute loneliness, a despair that I had never known before. It was an utter lack of hope. Then, in the midst of that nothingness, a light appeared. A tiny glow at first, but it grew quickly, like dawn breaking through the longest night. Desperate for something, anything to hold on to, I surged toward it. It was like a drowning person finally glimpsing the surface, lungs burning for air. Suddenly, there was a barrier, clear yet somehow solid like frosted glass. Through this barrier, I saw a scene that felt distant yet intimately familiar. I recognized a hospital bed, machines, monitors. I saw a young woman lying there, pale, motionless, me. My daughter stood nearby, tears streaming down her face. The look on her face wrenched at my soul. I needed to comfort her, to let her know I was okay, or at least alive somewhere. I tried to reach her. My arms moved, but I could not bridge the gap. I slammed my hands against the barrier, shouting with all my might, though I heard no sound. Why, God? Why let me see my child like this if I can't go back? The more upset I became, the more the void pulled me away again, dragging me back into that blackness. I remember a fierce conviction swelling in me. I refuse to stay here. I can't abandon my children. For a second time, I found the barrier. This time, it didn't feel solid. My hand went right through, as though I were passing through water. I forced myself forward, mind set on returning. Suddenly, I was in the hospital room again, hovering over my own body. Yet there was still the problem. How do I get back inside? My physical form lay there, eyes closed, unresponsive. I tried telling my eyes to open, but nothing happened. I then focused on a smaller action, a single fingertip. If I could just get that fingertip to move, it might be enough to re-establish a link. Move, just once, please. After what felt like an eternity, I sensed a twitch. It was faint, like the first flicker of light when electricity comes back on, but it was enough to form a bridge between my spirit and my body. Gradually, I felt myself inhabiting my physical self again. My senses returned. I could feel the bed beneath me, the scratchy fabric of the hospital gown, the prick of an IV in my arm. Then, my eyes opened. I blinked in confusion, bright lights flooding my vision. A nurse stood over me, looking startled. I tried to speak, but my throat was raw. The words came out as a whisper. I was just with God. She gave me a gentle smile, likely attributing my words to delirium or medication. My family rushed in, relief evident on their faces. My daughter clung to my hand, tears of joy replacing tears of terror. I tried to explain what I had experienced, but how could I fully convey it? The darkness, the void, the barrier, the profound sense of existing outside my body. These weren't things easily articulated or understood. That night, when the hospital halls fell silent and I was alone, I felt another presence in the room, a divine presence. I felt God speaking to my heart, saying, "Share your story." At first, I was reluctant. Who would believe such an account? Would they think I was crazy or simply hallucinating? Even I, a nurse who had seen countless medical anomalies, doubted my own memories at times. Yet the command was insistent. It wasn't a threat. It felt like a compassionate urging. People need hope, and this story can give it. Gradually, I began sharing in small circles, friends, fellow parishioners, and eventually at spiritual retreats and community gatherings. Reactions varied. Some were skeptical, others profoundly moved. Those who had lost loved ones or feared death found solace in my words. People who felt abandoned in their darkest hours discovered a renewed sense of faith. I saw tears of gratitude, relief, and even awe. I realized that even if not everyone believed me, even if some wrote it off as a hallucination, the impact on those who did listen was undeniable. It eased their fears. It reminded them that life doesn't end with death, that we are loved, that we are seen. In time, I fully recovered from that anaphylactic episode, taking greater precautions with my allergies. But I also emerged with a new outlook on life, one of humility and awe. I learned that each breath is a gift, each moment with our loved ones is precious. I no longer feared God as a harsh judge, but embraced the idea of God as an ever-present support, a loving guide who stands ready to uplift us, even in our most desperate moments. Above all, I now understand that we do not truly die. God is always within us. Life holds far more depth and meaning than we can imagine. And for me, the turning point, the tiniest spark of re-entry into this world, was simply one small movement of a finger, a single, almost imperceptible gesture that bridged my soul and body. It was the catalyst for everything that followed, a sign that sometimes the smallest actions can make the greatest difference between life and death, hope and despair, or faith and fear. This is my story. I share it not to claim any special privilege, but to offer you the comfort and assurance I have found. We are more than our flesh and bones, more than our fears. We carry within us a spark of the divine, a connection that even death cannot sever. If you ever find yourself on the edge, whether physically or emotionally, remember, you never know when a single tiny motion or a single act of faith can bring you back.
If this story resonates with you, please share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to discover more near-death experiences. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.